Hey everyone, this is Dr. Malego, and in this video, I'm going to be going over the first lesson for the oboe. So let's start with the introduction. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to show the student how to open the case. Now, everyone's going to have different cases, so you want to look, and most of the time the handle is going to be on the bottom of where the case opens. You're going to open up the latches so that it is facing the correct way so you don't dump your oboe on the floor. The next thing we're going to do, I like to encourage students to take a picture of the inside of the case. That way they know what it looks like to put the parts back in. I'm not going to do that right now because I know where the parts go. And then we're going to talk about each part of the instrument. So the first part we have is the upper joint. We can tell it's the upper joint because it has a little hole in the end where the reed is going to go. The next part we have is the lower joint. And the lower joint, on this particular oboe, there are caps that cover the corks, but there's cork going to be on one side. And then we have the bell. We also have the reed, which is a very important part of playing the oboe. So I am going to take the reed right now, and I'm going to soak the reed in a little cup of water. So what I want to do is make sure that the blades of the reed are wet. I don't want the cork to be wet. It's okay if some of the strings get wet, but I don't want the cork to be getting wet. Then I'm going to take and I'm going to inspect and grease the corks on the oboe. So I showed you where there was some cork there. And so what I'll do is I'll take a little cork grease, put it on my fingers, and I will rub it on the cork of the oboe. Very important, I'm not going to put cork grease on the cork that is on the reed. Because if I do that, what will happen is some of the grease will get inside the oboe and it will actually block some of these very first keys on the holes on the oboe. And that's going to make it not work so well. The next thing we're going to talk about is embouchure. So to form the embouchure, we're going to take our reed out of the water, just blow the water out of the reed. That way it's not completely drenched. And we want to make sure it's been soaking for a little bit. We're going to make our lips the shape of a whistle or like an O. And we're going to put about 1/8 of an inch of the reed into the mouth. Now, if you look at your reed from the side, you might notice that one blade potentially is going to be slightly shorter than the other. In this case, this side of this reed has a slightly shorter blade. So I'm going to put that side down. What that does is it actually helps with articulation, which we can talk about later. So we're going to form an O. We're going to set the reed in the mouth, just about 1/8 of an inch in. We're going to close the lips like a drawstring, and we're going to like roll our lips in. So it's going to look like this. So I'm able to roll my lips in and control the reed. So that's actually going to be part of the first thing that we do. We're going to put the reed in the mouth, and we're going to go ooh, ee, wee, kind of like ooh and e sound with the reed. It's going to be like this. So you'll notice that some of the pink of the lips is going to still be showing, even when I'm making the E and kind of rolling more of the reed into the mouth. So we always want to make sure that some of the pink of the lip is showing. Some things we want to look for are making sure that the teeth are apart inside the mouth. And we can think about the embouchure as being more vertical than horizontal. So what we don't want to do is be smiling or pulling our lips back. They should be firm, but they should be neutral in their position. So as we practice with the oo and the e, what we're actually doing is we're talking about the inside of the mouth, and we know that that is called voicing. So let's practice a little oo, e before we move on to the next step. So the next thing we're going to talk about is articulation. And for articulation, I like to use my thumb as a pretend tongue. We're going to take the tip of the tongue right at the top, and we are going to strike the top of the bottom reed. So the reed is going to go in the mouth like this, and we're going to strike it like this. And when we do that, we will be stopping the reed from vibrating, and that will start the note. So it's going to sound like this. When we articulate, we want to make sure that there's no jaw movement. So we're not chewing while we're not going two, just two, and the jaw stays steady. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to put the oboe together. So let's take our reed and put it in a safe place. You could put it back in the water, but for the first lesson, I recommend setting it like this across the water, because if the reed soaks for too long, it's going to absorb too much water, and then it's actually going to impact how the blades close. So to put the oboe together, we are going to take the upper joint and the lower joint. I'm going to remove the little caps from the cork, and I'm going to put my thumbs facing the same direction. Now, when putting the upper joint and the lower joint together on the oboe, we see that we have bridge keys here. So we have bridge keys on both sides. So what we actually want to do is line the oboe up so that the keys are making a straight line, and we see the bridge keys that they're ready to go together. And then we're actually just going to pretty straight push those parts together with only the slightest bit of twisting motion if you need to get it together. Mainly, it's just going straight together, and that is to protect the bridge keys. We want to be very careful with those so that the oboe will work properly. Next, we're going to hold the lower joint, and we're going to actually press the keys closed anytime we're holding over top of keys. We're going to take the bell. Now, the bell on the oboe that I have does not have a bridge key. You may have an oboe that has a bridge key. In that case, you want to observe the bridge key and make sure that you, just like we did here, that you align it well. So mine, instead, it has holes on either side. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the bell onto the oboe with a twisting motion. And we are going to make sure that those holes are on the sides. So notice the keys go straight down, the holes are on the sides. That's going to help us play the low B flat someday. We don't need to worry about that right now. Next, we're going to take our reed, put the reed into the receptacle where it goes, the receiver right there. So we're going to put the reed in there, and we're going to press it all the way into the oboe, as far as it will go. We don't want any space there because that is going to impact the sound. So that goes the whole way in. You can use a slight twisting motion if you need to, and you're going to make sure that the blades are facing this direction so that they're in line with the keys like this, okay? Because we are going to put the oboe in our mouth and we want the reeds to be facing the correct direction. So next, let's talk about holding the oboe. We're going to take our right thumb. The side of the thumb is going to go underneath the thumb rest, just along the side of the thumbnail. Then we're going to take our 3 fingers and we're going to put them on those keys. The pinky is going to go on this top key here, which is called the C key. The left-hand thumb is going to be on the back of the oboe, prepared to press down the octave key. We're not going to depress that right now, though. And then we're going to take our 3 fingers and we're going to cover these 3 keys. The first key has a little tiny tab on it, and there's a hole in the key. We want to make sure that we are covering the hole with the fingers. And then the pinky is going to go on this key right here, which is called the G sharp key. So this is our home position for our fingers. The fingers are going to be curved so that we're playing with our fingerprints on the keys. After we have our fingers on the oboe, we want to make sure that we're holding the oboe the correct way. So when we're playing oboe, we want the oboe to come out of our mouth at the 45-degree angle. This is 90 degrees, so we want it to be about halfway here, 45 degrees, with the chin parallel to the floor. So let's learn our first 3 notes. The first 3 notes are going to be B, A, and G. So let's play B. We're only going to push down our first finger, making sure it covers that hole. It sounds like this. And then if we add our second finger, we're going to get A. And then we add the third finger to get G. And there you have it, your first lesson on oboe. Thanks for watching.